Snowflakes swirled in the December dusk, dusting the gravel driveway as Amy Carter eased her Honda to a stop outside Karen's two-story house in a quiet Ohio town. The wind bit through her wool coat, sharp and unrelenting, tugging at her scarf as she stepped out, her boots crunching on the frosted stones. Fairy lights draped the porch, their glow flickering like fragile stars against the gray sky. A plastic Santa rocked in the yard, its chipped smile catching flecks of snow. The backyard pulsed with the hum of a Christmas party. Clinking glasses, the sizzle of burgers on a grill, the tang of charcoal and pine weaving through the air. Amy, 32, slung her bag over her shoulder, her breath clouding as she scanned the crowd. Cousins laughed over paper plates. Neighbors balanced cups of cider, their voices bright against the chill. Karen, her older sister, swept past with a tray of steaming mugs, her auburn hair pulled tight, her smile a thin crease that didn't reach her hazel eyes. Mike, her husband, manned the grill, his laugh booming. Too loud for the small yard, his plaid shirt stained with grease. Helen, their mother, arranged cookies on a folding table, her silver hair glinting under the fairy lights, her fingers quick, precise, like a metronome. Lily, 7, sat alone on a picnic bench, her small frame curled inward, blonde hair falling in tangles over her gray eyes. Her hands clutched a stuffed rabbit, its ears frayed to threads, her sneakers scuffing the frost-damp grass. Amy slid onto the bench, the wood cold through her jeans, and nudged Lily's shoulder. "Hey, Lil, saving me some pie?" she teased, her voice warm, her fingers brushing the girl's tangled hair, smoothing a stray lock. Lily's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile, but her eyes stayed on the rabbit, her fingers twisting its ears. She leaned closer, her breath warm against Amy's ear, her voice a trembling whisper, barely audible over the clatter of plates. "It hurts when I sit down there." The words hung fragile as the snowflakes melting on Amy's sleeve, sharp as a splinter in her chest. Karen's laugh sliced through, brittle and high. "Lily, you and your stories. Probably sat on a toy again." She set the tray down, cider sloshing over the rims, her hands unsteady. Helen chuckled, brushing crumbs from her apron, her voice light but firm. Kids and their imaginations, always making a fuss. Lily's fingers tightened on the rabbit, her shoulders curling tighter, her eyes dropping to the grass, where a snowflake dissolved into the frost. Amy's chest squeezed, a cold knot twisting, but she forced a grin, her hand resting lightly on Lily's back, feeling the girl's slight tremble through her sweater. "Come on, let's grab some cocoa," she said, standing, leading Lily toward the house, the girl's steps slow, her sneakers dragging against the ground. The fairy lights blurred in Amy's vision, their festive glow dim against the unease blooming in her gut. The living room smelled of pine and sugar, the Christmas tree's lights casting a warm halo over tinsel and glass ornaments, their reflections dancing on the hardwood floor. Lily knelt on the rug, her rabbit tucked against her chest, her fingers tugging her sleeve, stretching the fabric, the frayed threads catching the light. The party had quieted. Cousins slumped on couches, their chatter fading into yawns, paper plates scattered with cookie crumbs. Karen scrubbed dishes in the kitchen, the clatter of plates sharp against a carol's soft hum on an old radio, its static crackling faintly. Mike's voice carried from the porch, joking with a neighbor about football, his laugh grating, too loud for the stillness of the house. Amy sat cross-legged beside Lily, unwrapping a candy cane, its red stripes glinting under the tree's glow. "So, Lil, how's school going? Got a favorite teacher?" Her voice was soft, playful, her eyes tracing Lily's face, watching for any shift in her guarded posture. Lily shrugged, her gaze fixed on the candy cane, her fingers tugging her sleeve tighter. "School's fine, Mrs. Harper's nice," She reads us stories. Her voice was flat, her shoulders hunching slightly. Cool, Amy said, leaning back, her hands resting on her knees. What about soccer? Coach teaching you any new tricks? She grinned, her fingers stilled, watching Lily's hands pause, then tug again. Soccer's okay. Coach Tim gives stickers. Lily's breath hitched, her eyes flicking to the doorway where Mike's silhouette loomed, his beer bottle glinting as he stepped inside, his boots thudding on the floor. "Hey, Lily, help me with these lights," he called, his hand landing on her shoulder, heavy, lingering. Lily flinched, her body shrinking, the rabbit pressed so tight its seams strained. Amy's jaw tightened, her fingers curling into the rug, but her face stayed neutral, her smile a fragile mask. Karen glanced over from the kitchen, her sponge pausing mid-scrub, her lips a thin line before she turned back, scrubbing harder, the plate squeaking under her grip. Lily shuffled toward the tree, her steps reluctant, Mike's hand guiding her, his fingers brushing her shoulder. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. The Carol's cheer jarring against the tension coiling in Amy's chest. She watched Lily's small hands fumble with a string of lights, her eyes down, her movements mechanical, the rabbit tucked under her arm like a shield. The kitchen was a haze of cinnamon and dish soap, the sink's drip a steady pulse in the quiet. The last guest had left, the house settling into a stillness broken only by the fireplace's faint crackle, its embers glowing in the living room. Amy waited until Mike and Helen settled on the couch, their voices low over mugs of coffee, the clink of porcelain faint. She pulled Karen aside, the fridge's hum masking her words. "Karen, Lily said it hurts when she sits. I'm worried. Maybe something's up at school. Can we ask her more?" Karen's hands froze on a dish towel, her eyes darting to Mike's laugh in the doorway. "She's 7, Amy. She's just tired." Her voice was sharp, defensive. Amy leaned closer, her voice steady. "She looked scared, Karen. Can we talk to her together?" Karen's lips tightened. "You're overreacting." "Drop it." She turned to the sink, scrubbing hard. Amy's jaw tightened, but she stepped back, her boots soft on the linoleum. She found Helen in the living room, adjusting ornaments, the tree's lights glinting off her silver glasses. "Mom, Lily's acting off. Should we get her checked?" Helen's eyes flicked to a bauble. "You're overreacting, dear." "She's dramatic. Don't ruin the holidays." Her tone was patronizing, final. Amy stood frozen, the fire's crackle sharp in her ears, the tree's glow dimming in her vision. Karen's deflection, Helen's dismissal, they were shutting her out, their words a wall cold and solid. She glanced at Lily across the room, curled on the rug, her rabbit clutched tight. Amy pulled out her phone, texting her boss. Staying a few days. Family stuff. Her resolve hardened. She'd watch closer, dig deeper. Amy asked to stay a few days, her voice light as she cited holiday bonding and a rare break from work. Karen agreed. Her voice clipped, distracted by a buzzing phone, her fingers tapping the screen. Mike shrugged, tossing Lily a wink as he headed to the garage, his boots thumping on the floor, a hammer clanging faintly. Amy spent the next day with her niece, playing Uno on the living room rug, Elsa's voice drifting from the TV, the screen's blue glow flickering across their faces. Lily avoided chairs, kneeling or standing, her rabbit clutched tight, its ears bunched in her small hands. When Mike's voice boomed from the garage, cursing a tangled string of lights, Lily's eyes darted to the stairs, her fingers tightening, her breath catching. The next afternoon, with Karen and Mike out for groceries, their car rumbling down the street, Amy noticed Lily slip upstairs, her sneakers soft on the creaking steps, her rabbit dangling from her hand. Curious, Amy followed, her breath shallow as she pushed open the attic door, the hinges groaning. Dust motes danced in a sliver of light from a single bulb, swinging on its cord, casting shadows across slanted beams. Cobwebs draped boxes, the air thick with the musty scent of old wood. In a corner, Lily had built a fort, a tattered blanket over crates, a flashlight casting a faint, trembling glow, a notebook tucked beneath a worn pillow, its edges frayed. Amy knelt, her fingers brushing the notebook's cover, guilt prickling at the intrusion, her breath catching. She opened it, the pages crinkling under her touch. Crayon drawings stared back, a stick figure girl, tears streaming, curled in a corner, a tall shadow looming, faceless, its edges jagged with black scribbles, swallowing the page. Words in shaky blue, "It hurts. Don't tell." Another page scrawled in red, "I'm scared. Nobody listens." Amy's breath caught, her fingers tightening on the notebook as she slipped it into her coat, the paper crinkling against her chest. The attic's silence pressed in. The bulbs flicker, casting shadows that danced. Her eyes stung, her jaw set. She glanced around the dim space, her gaze lingering on the fort, then turned to the stairs, her steps firm. She'd find the truth. The guest room was dim, a bedside lamp casting a soft pool of light over the quilt. Its patchwork squares faded from years of use. A cracked snow globe sat on the nightstand, its glass glinting, snowflakes frozen inside. Amy sat with Lily, the air quiet, heavy with the scent of old wood. Lily's rabbit lay in her lap, her fingers clutching her sweater's hem, stretching the fabric. Amy leaned forward, her voice a gentle thread, woven from years of coaxing kids through pain. "Hey, Lil. When I was little, I had a secret that felt like a big rock in my chest. I told my aunt, and she made it go away, like magic." "You got any secrets like that?" Lily's fingers froze, her gray eyes welling, the lamplight catching a tear on her cheek, glistening like a dewdrop. She glanced at the door, her lips trembling, then bit her lip, her voice a whisper, soft as a falling snowflake. "I'm not supposed to say. He'll be mad." Amy's heart cracked, a sharp ache spreading, but she kept her face soft, her hand brushing Lily's arm, feeling the girl's slight tremble. "You're safe with me, sweetie. No one's mad at you here." She waited, the silence thick, the clock ticking on the nightstand, its hands glinting faintly. Lily's lip trembled, her voice breaking, barely audible. "Uncle Mike. He does things when Mom's at work. It hurts." The words spilled, sharp and heavy, each one a weight Amy felt in her bones, a blade twisting in her chest. She nodded, her hand steady on Lily's, her thumb tracing small circles. "You're so brave, Lil. I'm here now." She didn't press for more, knowing trauma came in fragments, not floods. Instead, she smiled, her voice light, a lifeline. "How about a girls' trip to my place in Cleveland? Movies, popcorn, the works." Lily's eyes sparked, a faint smile breaking through her fear, her fingers loosening on the rabbit. She nodded, her voice small. "Can Mr. Flopsy come?" Amy laughed softly, ruffling Lily's hair. "Of course." Amy texted Karen, her fingers steady on her phone. "Taking Lily for a girls' trip to my place. Cool?" Karen's reply came fast, a single word. "Fine." The casualness stung, like Karen was relieved to have Lily gone, her absence a weight lifted. Amy's Cleveland apartment was small, its cream walls catching the morning sun through sheer curtains, the light soft and warm. Lily slept in the guest room, curled around her rabbit, her breaths soft in the quiet, her blonde hair fanned across the pillow. Amy sat at the kitchen table, the notebook open before her, its pages a map of pain, the crayon drawing stark under the fluorescent light. A new entry stopped her cold. "Mom saw once, said don't tell." I'm bad. Her stomach churned, rage and heartbreak colliding, a bitter taste rising in her throat. She grabbed Lily's cracked iPhone, a hand-me-down from Karen, its screen smudged with fingerprints. Knowing Lily's password from a previous visit, Amy opened a recovery app, her fingers navigating to deleted messages. A thread between Karen and Mike appeared, the words freezing her blood. "Keep her quiet, Mike. I can't deal with this now." Sent 2 weeks ago, at 1 a.m., the timestamp glowing like an accusation. Amy's hands stilled, her breath caught as she screenshot it, the screen's light harsh in the dim kitchen. Karen knew. Maybe not the full horror, but enough to stay silent, to choose her life over her daughter. She called Karen, her voice controlled, though her heart raced, the phone cool against her ear. "I found Lily's notebook. She's been hurt, Karen, by Mike. She's got bruises and she's scared. We need to get her to a doctor." Karen's voice cracked through the phone, sharp and brittle. "You're out of line, Amy. Lily's making it up. Bring her back or else." Her words were rushed, her breath uneven, like she was grasping for control. Amy pressed, her tone steady, her words measured. "She's got bruises, Karen. She told me it's Mike. I'm taking her to a doctor, and we need to talk about this." Karen's voice turned cold, a hiss through the line. "Bring her back now, or I'll get a lawyer." "You don't get to play hero." The call ended with a click, the silence deafening. Helen called an hour later, her voice low, measured, like a teacher scolding a child. "Amy, stop this. You're blowing it out of proportion. You'll tear this family apart." Amy gripped her phone, her knuckles whitening, the truth sinking in like a stone. They weren't just dismissing her, they were shielding Mike, or their own fragile peace, at Lily's expense. The kitchen felt too small, the walls closing in, the screenshot's glow burning in her mind. Amy dialed Sarah, her CPS colleague, at dawn, the kitchen dim except for the glow of her laptop, its screen casting shadows on the counter. "I've got a niece showing abuse signs. Bruises, notebook drawings, texts from her mom to her stepdad. What's the process?" Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled, the coffee mug beside her, cold and untouched. Sarah's voice was crisp, professional, cutting through the early morning haze. "Get a medical exam, file a CPS report. I'll send the forms and a caseworker contact." "Move fast, Amy." Amy took Lily to a pediatrician the next day, framing it as a school checkup to keep her calm. Lily clung to her rabbit, her gray eyes darting around the exam room's white walls, the antiseptic smell sharp in the air. The doctor, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes, examined Lily gently, her face tightening as she noted bruises on the girl's thighs and hips, faint purple marks like cruel fingerprints. "These are consistent with abuse," she said, her voice low, her pen scratching notes. "I'm recommending a CPS referral." Amy nodded, her throat tight, her hand squeezing Lily's, feeling the girl's small fingers tremble. At the CPS office, a caseworker named Maria sat with Lily in a room with soft chairs and a stuffed bear, its button eyes glinting under fluorescent lights. Amy watched through a one-way mirror, her chest aching as Lily clutched her rabbit, her voice a whisper. "Uncle Mike hurt me when Mom was gone. He said I'd get in trouble if I told." Maria's questions were gentle, her notepad filling with careful script, guiding Lily through the story, piece by painful piece. Amy submitted the notebook, its tear-stained pages heavy in her hands, the screenshot of Karen's text, and a recorded conversation, taken with Lily's consent, where Lily described Mike's actions in halting, tearful words, her voice breaking on every sentence. She hired Rachel, a family lawyer recommended by Sarah, who filed for emergency custody. "We've got a strong case," Rachel said, her eyes scanning the evidence, her voice calm but firm. "CPS report, medical exam, texts, it's compelling. But Karen's fighting hard, so brace yourself." The courtroom was cold, the air heavy with polished wood and stale coffee. Karen sat rigid, her lawyer claiming Amy coached Lily. "My client denies neglect. The child's story is inconsistent," he argued. Mike glared from the gallery. Amy's fingers stilled as she handed the evidence to Rachel, who presented it. The notebook's crayon drawings, stark. The screenshot of Karen's text, damning. The CPS report, clinical. The doctor's findings, grim. Maria testified steadily. Lily's disclosures confirm abuse. Her mother's inaction suggests neglect. The judge, stern in wire-rimmed glasses, reviewed the file, his pen tapping. "The evidence outweighs the defense," he said. "Temporary custody is granted to Ms. Carter. A restraining order is issued against Mr. and Mrs. Thompson." Karen's eyes widened. Mike's chair scraped as he stood. Relief warmed Amy. Outside, in the courthouse hallway, Lily clung to Amy, her small body pressed close, her voice a whisper against the hum of voices. "I get to stay with you forever?" Amy knelt, her eyes burning, and pulled Lily into her arms, the girl's rabbit soft between them. "Always, kiddo. Always." Mike's arrest followed days later, charges of child sexual abuse filed based on CPS findings, the news a faint hum in Amy's mind as she held Lily's hand, their steps echoing on the tile. The Cleveland apartment was small, its cream walls warmed by morning sun spilling through wide windows, the light soft and golden. Lily arranged her sneakers by the door, their laces tied neatly, no longer clutched under her pillow at night, their soles clean against the hardwood. The air smelled of coffee and fresh paint, a new beginning carved from the wreckage of pain. Amy enrolled Lily in art therapy, where the girl drew tulips, their petals bright against a crayon blue sky, their stems curving like smiles. "They're happy," Lily said, taping one to the fridge, her smile shy but real, her fingers smudged with yellow crayon. A letter arrived from Helen, its envelope creased, the handwriting shaky, the paper thin under Amy's fingers. "Amy, I was wrong to stay silent. I saw Lily flinch around Mike, but told myself it was nothing. I was scared of losing Karen, of breaking our family. I'll testify if needed." "I'm sorry." Amy read it aloud to Lily, her voice soft, the words heavy in the quiet kitchen. Lily traced a tulip with her finger, her gray eyes thoughtful. "Grandma's sorry?" she asked, her voice small. Amy nodded, her throat tight, her hand brushing Lily's hair. "She's trying, Lil." One Sunday, over waffles, syrup dripped on Lily's cheek, glistening in the sunlight, and she giggled, the sound light, like bells in the quiet morning, free of the fear that once shadowed her eyes. Amy joined a private online support group for abuse survivors, sharing Lily's story anonymously, her words typed in the dim glow of her laptop late at night. The group's messages, stories of strength, tips for healing, quiet encouragement, kept her grounded, a lifeline in the long nights when doubt crept in. Amy watched Lily sleep, her rabbit tucked close, the lamplight soft on her face, her breaths even and calm. Justice wasn't just the gavel's echo or Mike's arrest, the handcuffs clicking in a distant memory. It was the sneakers by the door, no longer a lifeline for escape, their laces neat and still. It was the tulips on the fridge, bright with hope, their petals a promise of spring. It was Lily's laughter, spilling over waffles, drowning out the whispers of the past, a sound that filled the small apartment with light. A letter arrived from Helen, its envelope creased, the handwriting shaky, the paper thin under Amy's fingers. "Amy, I was wrong to stay silent. I saw Lily flinch around Mike, but told myself it was nothing. I was scared of losing Karen, of breaking our family. I'll testify if needed. I'm sorry." Amy read it aloud to Lily, her voice soft, the words heavy in the quiet kitchen. Lily traced a tulip with her finger, her grey eyes thoughtful. "Grandma's sorry?" she asked, her voice small. Amy nodded, her throat tight, her hand brushing Lily's hair. "She's trying, Lil." One Sunday, over waffles, syrup dripped on Lily's cheek, glistening in the sunlight, and she giggled, the sound light, like bells in the quiet morning, free of the fear that once shadowed her eyes. Amy watched Lily sleep, her hand relaxed on the pillow, the lamplight soft on her face, her breaths even and calm. Justice wasn't just the gavel's echo or Mike's arrest. It was the sneakers by the door, their laces neat and still. It was the tulips on the fridge, bright with hope. It was Lily's laughter, spilling over waffles, filling the small apartment with light.